What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Ear Hustling Podcast. I'm your host, Prince. I'm joined by my co host, James. What's going on?
What's going on? Was a little premature there, huh?
I'm a little quick on the gun, a little quick to jump to action. I get excited.
I understand.
You're chuckling over there.
I am.
Um,
I can say so much right now.
Well, no need. We got an action-packed show, so we're going to jump right into it. Hey, it's season 2, episode 2, and we have a great episode for you guys today. We have a great group of people here that are going to be sharing their stories and their experiences with vitiligo. So, for those of you that don't know, vitiligo, it's an autoimmune disorder in which the pigment is lost from areas of the skin. And I'm sure our guest today will actually be going a little bit deeper into that and telling you a little bit more about that. So, without any further ado, I'll be introducing everybody individually and they'll be telling you guys a little bit about themselves. So, our first guest, Robert.
You know what? I'm gonna bring him on, but clear your throat, get a drink, sit back, everyone, relax, enjoy the show. And by the way, Prince, I want to point out this is Vitiligo Awareness Month, so that's one of the reasons that we wanted to have this show. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. And here come our guests. Welcome, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. And we got one more guest that will be coming on as well. But Prince, go ahead, take it away.
All right. So, first off, Robert, how you doing, sir? If you could just share a little bit about your story with us, anything you want, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Robert. My name is Robert Brooks. I'm originally from New York. I've had vitiligo for approximately 12 years. I was 47 years old when it started, little spots on my legs. And in the past 12 years, I'm 59 now. It's grown over approximately 60% of my body. I have no problem with it. I live with it. Life is good. I've been called a couple of names, some funny, some not so funny. But the one I like is somebody called me Swirl. I thought that was such a cool name. So as of today, she still calls me Swirl. And I happen to like that one. So I'm open to answer any questions you like to know.
We're gonna definitely ask some questions, Robert, but I do want to point out you said ladies and gentlemen. That's the nicest thing you ever called me since I've known you. So thank you.
I wasn't talking about you.
Oh, my bad. Who's next, Prince?
All right. Thank you so much for that. Mr. And if I'm wrong, correct me on this, Yasaf?
I'll live with that. We ain't gonna make a big
out. Oh no. I want to get it right. I want to get it right. If you can tell me how it is.
It could be right because I'm not the literature expert, so it could be right. I pronounce it Yasser.
Yasser.
Yeah, Yasser. I've had vitiligo since 1997. I didn't calculate the years. I'm similar to the other gentleman. It started as a small spot, and then it expanded. One point in my life, you couldn't even see the brown. It was totally over my entire face. But over the years, it comes and goes. I don't know if it's connected to stress. Sometimes I'll gain pigment. Sometimes I'll lose pigment. So I try to make sure that heart is stress-free. And I'm kind of rolling in peace, And far as I'm concerned, I've adjusted, I know what it is to be treated funny, to be dealt with funny because of the pigmentation. But over the years, I embraced it, because it's me, I guess that's about it, So if there's anything else you want to ask, feel free.
Yes, we're definitely going to jump in and definitely have questions. So we'll definitely do that shortly. Thank you for that introduction.
Next, we have Amy.
Hey guys, Yes, my name is Amy. I am a preschool teacher. I've had vitiligo for about, I would say 17 years or so. I'm 32 now. It first started when I was 15 or so. My dad also had vitiligo, but for him, it was one spot his entire life, and my vitiligo has been coming and going. So yeah, I'm excited to do this event and to talk more and hear different people's experience. I'm still on my journey, and I think that I'm getting used to it, but I'm still getting there.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for
All right.
sharing. Lisa, how are you doing today?
Hi. Yeah, so my name is Lisa, and I live in the Buffalo, New York area. I grew up here in Buffalo, New York, and then I spent 18 years in Texas. And 11 years ago, I decided to move back to the New York area because I have relatives everywhere. So, so I have had vitiligo on my skin since I was 25 years old. I just turned 51 in March. And like so many of you guys, it started as little white spots on my hands, and it started around my cuticles on my fingers, just little white spots. And I was actually working at a restaurant at that time, and I seriously thought that I got some kind of chemical or bleach. I thought I got something on my hands for it to start having these little spots. So I told my boss about it, and the spots weren't going away. So so then I told my mom about it. My mother is a nurse. My mother was a nurse at that time. So my mother highly recommended me to go to my doctor, and then my doctor said, "Yeah, it looks like vitiligo." So I'm like, "Okay, so what is it? What do we do? How do we get rid of this?" So my doctor recommended me to go to a dermatologist, and the dermatologist told me this, the same thing was vitiligo. And the dermatologist made it sound like, that it was no big deal. There's no cure for it right now. There's really nothing that you could do, but just try not to stress out about it, which didn't help. So, but with me and the condition, I was suffering with it for a long time, for years, and then I got kind of used to it. I tried, different things, oils and all kinds of, but nothing really worked. So I just left things alone, and it took a long time for me to just accept it and to just carry on my life and not allow it to be this thing that would cripple me. You know what I mean? So I just want to, help other people with this condition, or with anything else that they may be facing. I want to just spread awareness with vitiligo, and just let people know, hey, you can still live, and you can still, have a life in spite of, what you look like, and don't let anybody tell you anything differently, because you could do what you want. So there you go.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
Last guest introducing today is Shay. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Prince.
I usually call you mom.
Yes, definitely. So, yes, I am married to the wonderful James Montgomery, mother of Princeton. I am originally from Detroit, Michigan, and I've been living in Georgia since about 2006. I first noticed vitiligo back in 2001. I was around 22 years old, and it was one little spot on my left hand. And I was already aware of what vitiligo was. I did not know that I had it at the time, but I did know a couple of other people with it. I went to the dermatologist. They confirmed it was vitiligo. For more than, I would say, a year, it didn't really move anywhere. It just stayed on my left hand. I do have generalized, I guess, vitiligo based on what I researched. So whatever happens on one side of my body is going to happen on the other. So it did start to progress to my right hand. And after James and I got married in 2003, I think, weddings can be stressful. That's around the time it started. It moved a little bit at that time onto my hands. I'll be honest, at the wedding, James, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I wasn't 100% comfortable with, like, when they take the pictures of the two hands together in the rings.
Yeah.
On my left hand, I did not want to take that picture. I took it and I have it and it's good for reference, but I never showed that picture. And I actually wore gloves at my wedding. So I wasn't that fazed by it, but at the same time, I just thought, oh no, this is going to be a distraction, in my pictures. But it still never really progressed. It actually took more than 10 years to progress to my face even. And then because of sun exposure every summer, it would kind of go away. So it pretty much kind of stayed where it was until I experienced stress in 2020, the beloved 2020 we all know. A lot of deaths after the loss of my father in December 2020, and then a traumatic event that I experienced in February of 2021. Once I got past that, I noticed that vitiligo just started to take off. So I didn't even have it, like you could see it on my neck and on my chest. Before 2021, I had nothing on my neck and chest. So I know that stress definitely does make it spread. So yeah, so now, even though I'm past that real stressful time, vitiligo is kind of just doing its thing. I'm totally okay with vitiligo. I work in a high school. I'm totally comfortable working with my students. They don't notice it or seem to say anything about it at all. And I'm just comfortable living life. I never let it stop me from doing the things that I want to do. And that's why I'm here today, to just inspire anybody who is like ashamed to come out in public or like feeling bad about it, to encourage them to, just live life. This is something that I don't have control over. I consider it to be God's work, and I'm just rolling with it. That's it.
All right.
Awesome.
Good.
Thank you all. Very, very happy you all sharing your story. Lisa and Shay, you kind of answered this question, but for the others, when you first noticed your first spot, did you know what it was?
I didn't.
I had no clue.
No clue whatsoever.
Yeah, you mentioned that, Lisa.
Yeah.
You were speaking to your boss and thought it was something chemical there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert, you said no.
No, but it's funny when Lisa shared that, right? I used to be a garbage man in New York. So I was clean out, and all of a sudden started growing these spots. And I was like, maybe the chemicals from the garbage is giving me this.
Yeah.
It was a passing thought in my head. But eventually I realized, I went to the dermatologist. They told me what it was. I said, what can you do about it? It was at one time I was under a UV light. I think I was doing it for 3 months. Then they told me it could cause cancer. So I just stopped. So it could. He didn't say it would. He said it could.
Right.
So I just stopped. I said, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And this is the result.
Amy, what about you? Did you know what it was when you first?
I think for me, it's surprising because as I said, my father did have vitiligo as well, but I really did not. At first, I was very confused. And because when I was 15 or so, that's when it started in kind of a butterfly pattern on my face, but it pigmented back so quickly. I almost thought that it was in my head. And I didn't really remember it until many years later. And then it started on my fingertips in my 20s. And I think that's when I went to the doctor. And I was like, oh my gosh, this had happened before. And I started to connect it in reference to my dad and realized what it was. So I think, the first time I was really confused. I didn't know what it was. I didn't even think to ask.
Okay. Prince, you're up.
Okay. And I believe you already said this earlier, James, but I want everybody to feel comfortable with any questions that we ask. If you don't feel comfortable answering them, by all means. You don't have to, but we just love to hear your answers and your stories. So I have a question for. I know I did some research that generally people who have vitiligo, oftentimes you might have other autoimmune disorders as well.
Yeah.
Does anyone also have anything else too?
I do. um, when
You do. What would that be?
when I was 18 years old, I was diagnosed with an overactive thyroid gland. That is another fabulous autoimmune problem. So my thyroid gland was overactive, and I actually had I went to an endocrinologist, and he did some blood work, and he said, "Yep, you got an overactive." I had a lump in my throat because your thyroid gland it's a really small little butterfly gland, and it sits right on top of your voice box, right here, and it regulates your thyroid gland regulates a lot of things in your body. So if it's out of whack, you're going to know. And you could have an overactive thyroid or an underactive one. So if it's overactive, everything speeds up, your metabolism speeds up, your heartbeat speeds up, everything, and if it's underactive, then everything slows down. So when I was 18, I had an overactive thyroid gland. And I was on a couple of medications until I had radioactive iodine treatment for that. And now I'm down to just one medication for that instead of taking 3. So, but the time span between being diagnosed with the thyroid issue and then the vitiligo issue, it was about 6 years. So the dermatologist did tell me that when he diagnosed me, he said, "Are you on any medications right now? Do you have any other autoimmune?" And I said, "Yes, I do." So he said, "Okay, that may play a part in the vitiligo right now." And then he asked me, if I had a relative who had vitiligo, and I said, "No, I don't." So yeah, and because he did tell me that vitiligo does run it is hereditary for some patients. So that was very, very interesting, I thought.
No,
For
I heard you
myself,
said that.
oh, sorry,
Yes,
go ahead.
ma'am. Oh, just one quick follow up with that. I heard you said that they said it may be connected, but did you ever feel that it had a direct correlation with your vitiligo, like in causing everyone one would flare up like a increase in depigmentation, or?
I didn't, but I noticed that when I, like a lot of other people, because Shay had mentioned, when she got married, which getting prepared for a marriage can be kind of stressful. And I noticed with me, when I did go through a period of stress, either from work or getting married, different things like moving, trying to find a job, just different things, just different changes in life. I did notice that the vitiligo spread to different areas. It started off on my hands, and then it went down to like my elbows, and then it went down to spots on my legs and my knees. So, but it was, for me, it was mainly, I think it was mainly like, the stress thing.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off, Amy. What you got?
Oh, no, not at all. I was just going to say, just hearing Lisa talk about an endocrinologist, I also had to see an endocrinologist for when I was about 14. I was diagnosed with hypoprolactinemia, which resulted in a very small tumor, not a dangerous one, apparently. It just sits there, but a tumor on my pituitary gland, which throws my hormones out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something I was dealing with for quite a while. And I don't think in terms of autoimmune issues, I have been monitored for an underactive thyroid for a few years, but I've never been put on medication for it, but it seems now that me and my siblings are doing more investigating. It seems like we all deal with some kind or the other of autoimmune issues. So I'm just like, I feel like it definitely is something that runs in families. Like, I remember always having to go to, so I forgot to mention, I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So
Oh,
I'd
you're
always,
near me.
yeah,
You're 2 hours away from me.
very nice. Like, I would always have to be going to sick kids hospital to deal with, I was like, oh my gosh, if it's not for, the brain tumors, for the vitiligo. And it was just like, it was an interesting experience for me.
Being a teenager, being diagnosed with vitiligo, what did that do to your self-esteem? Like, were you a very strong person before that? Or were you a very carefree person? Because I always want to know, because from the people I've talked to, a lot of people develop vitiligo when they're older, and I have met just a few people who were teenagers that started getting vitiligo. So, what was your experience being 15 years old, getting that diagnosis? How did that make you feel? Because it's tough being a teenager. I remember those years. It's kind of it can be very, very challenging. So how did you get around that? How did you cope with that?
Most definitely. For me, like I said, it was so brief, that period of when it appeared on my face and when it left. I don't even know if it was noticeable to other people until it just suddenly went away. So I feel like for the most part in my teen years, nobody knew that I had vitiligo, because like for you, you said it started just on your fingertips. It started for me just on the tip of my fingers when I was about 22. And that part on my face was just so brief. I don't even think people really noticed it. So I feel like I mostly went through my teen years without the stigma or dealing with it. But I feel like for a lot of kids, I'm just like seeing them deal with it. Even just talking to the kids at work. I work with kids between the ages of like 2 and 12, depending on what role I'm in at the time. And it's just so cool to see how they react to it. And like, there's this one little girl who swears I'm a Dalmatian. It's just so funny. But
Wow.
Yeah, that's funny too that you should mention that, because at my church, I volunteer as a children's helper once a month, and the relationship I have with the 3 and 4 year olds is absolutely golden. I mean, they know me well enough now that they don't really tease me about it, but I do remember one little boy in particular that did say that I looked like a cow, and that was I was like, okay. And then I started making like cow noises, and then he started making cow noises, and then we just started laughing. So that was probably about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But with little kids, I have a good relationship with them, and I just let them know, if there's anything you want to ask Miss Lisa, you can go ahead and ask me. Don't be shy. It doesn't hurt, because some little kids, they like to touch my hands and
that's the
poke
cutest
me.
part. The babies are like,
Yeah.
boo boo, and I'm like, no, baby,
Right.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, it's good. It's nice and smooth. I said it only hurts when I get sunburnt, so I have to be very careful. And if I'm being out in the sun too long. So, but yeah, kids are great. But
That's a great segue.
That question
I think
that you
took
asked, Lisa.
Oh, you're welcome.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh, sorry. That's a great segue. I think you guys took a peek at my notes here. My next question was actually going to be for those of you with children, and obviously Amy and Lisa, you work with children. Do you ever have to explain to children, your children particularly, what vitiligo is, and what is that conversation like?
Amy, you want to go first?
Ooh, I would just say it's different with every child. For the most part, the kids think it's super cool. A lot of I actually was speaking with two siblings recently who were in two different age groups in my classes, and one of them was telling me her little sister, who I'd worked with more closely, she's like, it kind of scares her, and I'm like, oh, I just like, that's okay, we can talk about it, I can show it to her, and she's like, well, me, I think it's really cool. And I was like, well, thank you for letting me know. And I just, made a point to talk to her little sister a little bit more about it and make sure she was comfortable with me enough to, ask more questions. But for the most part, the kids just, I have to keep reminding myself to talk to the new kids about it because they it's like kids are so like, they don't make you feel othered. It's not at all like adults where I'll get on the streetcar like in Toronto and everybody will be staring at me like, look, did I like have my underwear on my head today? And then I remember and I'm like, oh yeah, vitiligo. But it's still something I'm getting used to because like a lot of people said 2020 was so stressful. I didn't have it on my face at all. Like now it's spread around a little bit and I just have to keep remembering like, oh, people can like really see it now, which I'm like, sometimes I'm just like, this is so cool. Like, this is God's most amazing makeup. And then there's other days when you just, you feel down, like crazy people. Some man in the street just like screamed at me the other day and was like, you're so ugly. I was like, damn. But I was like, he's probably jealous. He's just jealous because he can't get fly like this without makeup. It's really cool.
I like that.
It is really cool. Most of the days I just spend admiring it, to be honest. There's just those hard days, but most times I've really grown to love it.
I have a quick story regarding makeup that you say, James. James and I were we at a hotel or something? James?
No, it was on a cruise.
Okay, so we're on the elevator and a girl was, I think, did I get in? Did she get in? It just happened really quick, but before I knew it, she was like, I love your makeup. And I was like, oh, thank you. I didn't even get a chance to say, oh, no.
Oh, my goodness.
It was over just that quick. Just that quick glance. And I'm thinking like, and I told James when we got off the elevator, I'm like, why would I do my makeup like that? Like I would have it just all over my eyes everywhere. But it was cool.
Somebody said that to me in an Uber once when it was just starting around my lips. They were like, oh, like the guy tried to pick me up. He's like, I really like your makeup. That's so unique. I was like, first of all, just drop me off and this is not makeup.
Yeah, I've had some real, I don't have a makeup story, but it really it's really very nice and complimentary when a younger person compliments my skin. Case in point, I went to go have my car washed about 2 months ago, and the teenage boy that was toweling off my kid at the end of the car wash, I had my window down because I was going to give him $2, for the tip like I usually do. And that particular day, it was after work. A lot of my makeup was off of my face because usually when I go to work, I have some makeup on, lipstick, whatever, some little bit of eyeshadow, whatever. And the kid that was toweling off my car, he said, "Oh wow, ma'am," he said, your skin is so cool. I mean, he just went all out. He was like, "That is so divine. I love your skin, man." I mean, I was like, "Thank you, young man." I'm like, "What is your name?" And so he told me his name, and he said that he saw a TV show. He was talking about Winnie Harlow, and when she was on, the modeling show, and then he asked me, he said, do you have skin like hers? Is it like all over? Are your spots all over like hers? I said, well, not exactly, but I said, in enough areas, yes. And he says, wow, he said, I just love that. You are so unique and you're so special. And it did wonders for, I was like, oh, thank you. And I really, really needed that little pick me up. He was really, really good for my ego that day. I was like, oh, thank you so much. I was like, God bless you. You're so nice. And it makes up for when I hear words of affirmation like that, especially from a teenager. It really really resonates in my spirit. I was like, wow, you know, this is really nice. And another time I was on the subway down in downtown Buffalo, and I was after work, and there was a young person. He may not have been a teenager, but he was a young man, and he passed me by on the stairs, and he said, "Oh man, your hands are beautiful. I just wanted to tell you that right now. Your hands are just so beautiful. I love the brown and the white. That looks so exceptional." I was like, "Thank you." So it was again very, very nice to get this kind of compliments, because it really makes up for the people who stare and say nothing, because I've had this condition for a long time, and it's the staring people that kind of they used to really get me kind of aggravated at first. Now I just kind of, you know,
Stare back.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
They used to
That
really
actually
aggravate me. It used to really aggravate me when it started. When, you know, I'm like, why don't you say something? Tell me, you know, stop staring. But I have. But who was the one who said stare back?
Robert.
Robert. So this is how I deal with it now. When I see somebody looking at me like totally excessively, I just, hey, how you doing today? Are you having a good day? You know, I just start talking to them. And then next thing you know, we're having a little conversation. So it kind of, you know, puts them a little bit more, you know, at ease. Like, you know, so, you know, I just, when they don't, like I said, when people used to stare and not say anything, used to really bother me. You know, that was like the worst thing, like going into a grocery store, you know, like, you know, or using a public bathroom. Go ahead.
I have a question along those lines as far as, so you said it makes you uncomfortable when people stare, which of course, naturally.
Yeah, I used to, yeah.
I've had times when I've seen somebody with vitiligo, and since my mother has vitiligo and I'm actually aware of what it is, I've wanted to approach those people. But for me, since my mom has vitiligo and I know how it can be with people staring at you, I've never, what's a good way to approach someone when they have vitiligo, but not come across as like you're being ignorant, or you're just trying to like, oh, what do you have? Like, and even though I do know what it is, I never know what's the right way to approach somebody.
I would say just approach them honestly. I think the best approaches I've ever had, because I've had this since 1997. And during that time, see, now this is more well known now. So to me, it's a much better time, because in 97, it was not a better time for me.
Absolutely. Because I was in 96.
Having a family, it was very hard for my children. You know, that at times, they, you know, because, you know, children are children. So other children are, you know, what's wrong with your dad? And pointing, and the children were ashamed to come out to me and things like that. Or just children, in a sense, being children, like, well, what's wrong with that man? He's so ugly.
Yeah.
Okay. That was 97. Going to the store and paying for something, and like dropping the money in my hand, like I came from another planet. You learn to take a lot.
Yeah.
And for me, when I embraced vitiligo, I was cool. The issues I was having wasn't me. It was the issues that were coming from the external, from how the people, as that you're talking about, were dealing with me, that was causing those issues. But I ran into children, and when they just came so nice and politely, sir, what's wrong with you? You know, what happened to you? Okay, then I could see, because, you know, vitiligo makes you a spokesman.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, you become a spokesman.
Absolutely.
And I want to say this to all of you, because see, really what I do apart from here is motivate people all day long. You know, turn me into a motivator, along with people with vitiligo, and being in different groups and just sharing the things that I received from the Creator. What I've noticed now is, you know, people that are close to me, they don't see vitiligo. They see me. And that's my encouragement to you. Be who you are, you know, because it's still you.
Yeah.
you know, and it chose you. And this is the way I write it. When I write about it, I said, well, you know, when vitiligo chose me, because I didn't choose it. Okay.
Amen.
It
That's the
chose
truth.
me. So I think for me, just be honest and ask an honest question. I think when people do that, like Lisa was saying, stood it and staring. You know, I remember going out with you know, when I was married at the time with my wife, and we would just be trying to have a meal, and we just sitting there, you know, just because I had vitiligo, I don't mean I ain't manic. I'm trying to enjoy my wife and everything, and you just sitting there looking at me like this, looking at me, put the food in my mouth. You know, that was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, but once the children would come and ask, then I could explain it. It was wonderful. To me, that's the best way, you know, just to ask honestly and sincerely, you know, and I don't think you would get a terrible answer from somebody that has vitiligo. That's all I'm gonna say.
I was in Ross the other day, and this little kid kept staring at me. So he told me his grandmother said, "Grandma, what's wrong with me?" She said, "Stop staring." I said, "No, let him ask. Let him ask." The kid's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I explained to him what it was. And the grandmother was like, "Well, thank you. Like, don't stop him from asking because he wants to know. And that's a good thing that he wants to know instead of instead of staring, because when kids stare at me, I mean, I'll stare back at and I'll look at them like, what you looking at? And they'll look at me like, oh, that's just me.
I'm with you, Robert. I'm with you. Whenever, and I'll say it. It is what it is. When Shay and I are out, I always notice those kids that are staring, and you know, I'll nicely give them the cutthroat, you know, and when no one's looking, you know, but you want to look at something, we can give you a show, dang on it.
And I'm the opposite. I'm like, leave them alone. I know why. I was like, they've probably never seen anyone with vitiligo. Just let them have it. But I like Yasa said, I prefer for someone to come up and just ask questions. It's like a unwanted celebrity, but it does give you an opportunity to educate people. And I've had more people with vitiligo of all races approach me probably than anything else to acknowledge or give advice. Or, you know, one lady said a long time ago, she was like, don't do light treatment. Like, and that scared me. Like, she said she caught skin cancer or something like that. But yeah, but people often will approach me and ask questions, and I love having opportunities to educate.
Absolutely.
If you guys see me out somewhere, I'm talking to the audience, and you recognize me from the show, you can ask me questions.
Say hi. Yes.
But if you're staring, that's what you're gonna get.
There you go.
Especially in the bathrooms, it used to really bother me. You know,
I have a real funny question, and this is funny to me. I've had people tell me things that you can do to clear up your vitiligo. The strangest thing I had somebody tell me, I feel embarrassed about saying this, but they said, pee on your hands and rub it all over you.
I think I got that one too at the grocery store one time.
Where would you get that from?
So there's something in urine that's good for your skin, apparently.
I thought that was outrageous.
This is
People will approach you with the weirdest cures, and it's like, I'm good like this, thanks.
Before you go on, Shay, because I know what you're gonna say, I gotta ask Robert the question. Did you try it?
No.
Okay, I'm just asking. There's someone out there that want to know, so I had to ask on their behalf.
Yeah, I had a couple of people trying to cure me. Oh man, one guy came from some biblical standpoint, and he said it was like a modern form of leprosy, and given scripture, and it was some type of curse or something. And I'm like, whoa. This was when I was like going into work too. I'm like headed into the school. He's like, wait a minute. I'm thinking like, you get some crazy, you know, reactions sometimes.
That's it. I'm driving you to work every day now.
Well, I'm a very faith-filled person, and I don't for 1 minute believe that vitiligo is a curse. I don't think that it's God's wrath. I don't believe any of that hogwash. for me. I just believe that, things happen. There's a lot of, different things in the genetics. And in my experience, I do know as a fact that with every little area of vitiligo that I have on, in different areas of my body, that it was stress related or it was brought on by a sunburn or, sun exposure. But I don't believe for a minute that this is God's way of punishing people. But there's a lot of people with vitiligo and other skin conditions or other things that they're struggling with, and they really have in their heads that God's punishing. I mean, I'm here to tell people this is not God's punishment, okay? But us living and being human beings, there's just a lot of things that happen out of our control. Vitiligo is out of our control, but I remember when I was first diagnosed that there was a friend of mine that said, well, maybe you should start drinking more green tea. Maybe you should try, gluten-free diet. Maybe you should do and she had, between her and my mom, who's a nurse, I was trying all these different things and nothing really worked. And after a couple of years, I said, you know what? Forget about it. I said, I'm just going to leave my skin alone because, you know what I mean? And just live and just enjoy my life. Be practical and be smart about the sun exposure. I'm not going to go out there vicariously, not put any sunscreen on if I know that I'm going to be out in the sun for 5 hours. You know what I mean? So we have to be smart, and we just can't be careless. Once we come to that to that knowledge about, how we could save our skin with the vitiligo. But yeah, I will tell anybody, I've told dozens of people, guys, this is not a punishment. Okay. So just don't even entertain that thought. Okay.
Tell them we're God's artwork.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
God's artwork. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I know one of, this one girl that I used to hang out with, her name was Crystal. She used to say, you're the vitiligo on your hands. It's just like God's natural tattoo on your hands and on your knees, And I said, I said, I like that.
Yeah. So
like
true.
Yeah. I've written about that, about this being God's artwork.
Right. When you say you've written about that, is that what type of writings are we speaking of?
Motivational stuff. I mean, if you're on my page, I write all the time into different groups and things like that. Not as an author, but as my own authentic author. Okay. That's how I look at it. When this came, okay, it put me in a place within myself to know that, hey, I'm authentic now. These spots right here, boy, I tell you, you gotta be a real good twin to find another one of me. Okay. So, and then another thing, I don't heavy stirs, because see, I'm not a real small person, so sometimes folk be stirring, Rob, they be a little scared, they'll stir, and if I turn around and look at them, they put their head down like this. You know what I mean? So I don't get it too heavy because of my physical stature, but I understand. And I don't know. Man, I mean, you're going to see me now. I think you're going to see me now more than you ever saw me before 1997, when I didn't have it anymore. But I also went through the treatment that Rob was talking about. I did do the UVA light treatment at Johns Hopkins University. And I had to come out of that because that was zapping me of all my energy.
Wow.
It was making me real irritable and mean at that time. My children were small. Wow. That UV treatment, that is not the one. So I did it for about maybe 3 or 4 months.
Me too.
And I came in and told the lady, I said, you know what? I said, I meditate on faith all the time. I minister faith all the time. Well, I'm getting ready to have some faith because I'm not coming back in here no more. And at that time, I didn't hardly have any skin. you know. And the lady looked at me and she said, "You know what? I'm glad you made that decision." And then, you know, it started coming back. It just started coming back. And it's been in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, you know. And I'm where you guys are now. I'm like, okay, you know, let's roll. Let's roll. This is me. I can't separate myself from vitiligo. It's me.
Yeah.
You know, so I just embrace it. I roll with it, and I do what I have to do on a daily basis. You know, and that's about it, man.
Does anybody know what's the percentage of people with vitiligo? I've actually heard it was 1%.
1% of the world's population.
Okay, that's what I've heard. 1%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, love the skin I'm in. You know.
Yeah.
So how about this? What, before you go there, Prince, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
You hardly ever, you don't see a lot of people with it. I don't see a lot of people with vitiligo, but just by coincidence, at the school I work at, there's another lady with vitiligo about identical to mine. We're the same complexion, the same height, about the same size. And we go around, we're in two different buildings, and we're constantly getting confused for each other. I'm constantly asked if I have a twin. How ironic is that? And she won like teacher of the year or something, and I was getting congratulated all school year. And I'm like,
did you take the congratulations? Like, thank you.
I told her one day. I said, I'm representing you well out here. You can trust me.
No, I was just gonna ask a follow-up question though to the treatments you guys said that you were receiving. As far as if there was a cure, I know as of now there's no known cure, but if there was a definitive cure, is that something that you guys would be interested in? Is that something that you guys would go towards?
I look at, because when I first got it, I read about Michael Jackson. So I definitely think about, okay, I ain't got the money to do that. But lo and behold, I'm almost there anyways. So, but no, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't, you know. So.
Yeah,
I would say no for me because I've learned how to live with it. I've learned how to cope with it. And I'm pretty, you know, I've reached a point in my life where it's okay that I'm not fighting it anymore, that I'm not hiding. But for the sake of the little kids, I hope that they do find a cure, you know, for the little ones, because it's hard. It's really, really hard being a kid. Because I remember being a kid and I was teased for all kinds of stuff. They'd call me four eyes because I had buck teeth and I had big old glasses and I was skinny and I had bowed leg. Yeah, I was a sight to behold. So I got teased for all kinds of stuff. So, you know, for the sake of the little ones, I really hope that they do find a cure for them. But then again, little kids are often resilient anyway. You know what I mean?
Chi just responded to that question too. Person been watching the show, and Chi-Chi's had vitiligo for 43 years, and Chi-Chi said, "I would not. I love my skin." So Chi-Chi weighed in as well. Thanks for viewing, Chi-Chi.
Yeah. I don't know how I would feel, because on one aspect, I like how unique I am, and on the other aspect, I think about how hard it can be dating. I think about the future and like worrying about my children and like how they would view me. But then at the same time, I see so many beautiful relationships, and I know that it goes past all that. But I don't know if I could honestly say that I wouldn't or I would.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, far as since now things it's kind of more relevant than it was way back when.
Absolutely.
You know, you might not have all those dating issues. You know, because I was shocked.
I did it.
You know? I was actually shocked with women. It was like, I think your marks are so beautiful. I'm sitting, but in my mind, because Robert, you know, I'm a brother, so we gonna keep it cool. You know, I got a straight face. As a matter of fact, I'm from Baltimore. I got a straight face, so you know, you're looking at me, but in my mind, I'm going, really? But on my face, I'm keeping it cool. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's not that. because I don't know what it's like with this. It made my essence stronger because it had to be to deal with, because what we deal with is what society doesn't understand. And because they don't understand it, I don't even see them as enemies. It's almost like you're curious and don't know how to really confront me to get the information you want. So you might come at me sideways. And that's not an issue for me. That's an issue for you. That's not an issue for me. You know, because one way or the other, I can't change what you see.
Yeah.
You know, so, but no, I think now it's really changing because, and I don't know what it is lately since I've joined these groups, I've seen, some of the most beautifulest men and women, handsome and beautiful, are us. I mean, my mind, I'm going through the thing like, oh, you're beautiful. Oh, you're beautiful. Oh my God. Look, Mom, did you see her? I mean, she is beautiful. It's changing. Then I'm seeing couples, one man doesn't have it, but the woman has it, and vice versa. I don't think that was an issue like it was, for me, because 97 to 20, 2022 is a long time. And it was an issue back then. But I'm seeing it open up more because people are seeing us more now. So.
Joseph, I think you said it earlier, and whoever it was, if I'm mistaken, I apologize. When I look at my wife, I don't see vitiligo. I don't. I never have. So I feel blessed that I found someone to love me the way she does. Vitiligo, no vitiligo, what have you, it doesn't matter. I'm according to the medical professionals, I'm morbidly obese. She loves me for me. So none of that matters, right? So Amy, if someone is judging you for that reason, then you don't need to be with them anyway. And you can tell them Uncle James got a cutthroat for them too.
Right.
I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I remember when my husband and I when we first started dating, because we've been married for almost 8 years now. In August it'll be our eighth year anniversary. And when we were dating, I asked him, I said, do you have any questions for me, regarding my skin, anything, and he didn't. I let him know all about it. And I said, you know what? I said, I'm comfortable with it. He was comfortable with it. He never saw vitiligo as an issue or as a barrier in our relationship, like, ever. He loved me for me. I fell in love with him, and he fell in love with me first, and then I had to kind of catch up to him a little bit. So I'm just being honest. So, but he knew right away that he wanted to be with me, and it was a really, really special relationship, and I love him for that. But yeah, with him, he didn't see. He never saw vitiligo as an issue. He never saw it as a problem. He never, and if he had any questions, that was, he freely asked me, and I answered them as honestly as I could, and I'm still learning stuff about vitiligo, because there's always something new, that I'm learning, from different people and from dermatologists and just different Facebook groups and stuff like that. But even before my husband, though, when I dated, a couple of guys here and there, that never was a thing. A lot of my ex-boyfriends saw the vitiligo on my skin as that was cool, that's so I just want to give people hope out there that if somebody really wants to be with you, they're not going to let vitiligo stand in their way of pursuing you, loving you. They want to be with you, and that's it. Yeah.
I would drop my mic, but it's a little expensive, so I'm not gonna drop it. But that's spot on.
Yeah. And James, how you feel about your wife that's wonderful. I wish more men felt that way about their wives. That's how it should be in a marriage. Seriously, that's how it should be. Yeah.
Our marriage is similar to what you described, Lisa, in the sense of she loved me first and I had to catch up. You know,
Oh my God.
I was a little behind.
You're listening all this.
Hilarious.
Yep.
Okay.
Hilarious.
Okay,
I
I
agree
got a
with what you
strange
said, though,
question.
James, as far as go ahead.
No, go ahead, Prince. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I agree with what you said, James, as far as having my mom has had vitiligo. You've had it pretty much since I was born, I believe, maybe a little bit after, but it's my whole life I've known you with vitiligo. But I don't ever think about it that way. I don't think about you and think about vitiligo. Like, it's just occasionally when we have these conversations, it'll come up, but it's never like on a day-to-day thing. I don't ever remember any of my friends ever talking about you having vitiligo or anyone ever being surprised by it. And it's never even when I'm bringing somebody around or something, I don't think to tell them that you have vitiligo, because it's nothing that crosses my mind. It's just something that you have, but it's just, you're still you.
So can I ask you a question, Prince? Would you recognize me without it? Like, you could recognize me without it? Not of course recognize, of course, but what would I, if you have never known me any other way, and I'm know that you're so used to seeing me like this, it's no reason to cure it. Right? I'm happy. You're happy.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Robert, what were you going to say?
I was going to ask, and I call this a crazy question. Do you find animals or letters on your body? Like, I have a bat. Literally, it looks like a bat on my body. So I look through my body at certain times to see if I can find. I have a heart somewhere. I have an arm somewhere. So I do strange things like that.
If someone came in like in the middle of you talking, Robert, and you said you have a heart somewhere, I would wonder what would they be thinking.
I don't know
like
what
the
they
Tin
would
Man.
be. I know what I'm talking about.
Right, I know what you're talking about. About.
Yes.
Yeah, Robert, that's so funny because like last year I had a lot more vitiligo on my face, and this year, just within the past couple of months, it hit the color started to come back. But last year at this time, because I was looking back at some Facebook pictures, last year at this time I actually had a nice white vitiligo heart right here on my nose.
Yeah.
And it's gone. And I was like, gosh darn it, I really like that heart. You know, it was perfect. It was right
Throw
here.
it back in there. Put
and
it back in there.
And the color came back. I was like, okay, God, what's going on here? But you know, and it's but you know, but like you said, you know, with the shapes and stuff, we don't really have control over what that vitiligo shape is going to look like or where it's going to pop up. And I think that's part of the stress of having it, because like I tell my husband sometimes, I'm like, if I knew that I was going to wake up in 2 days with a vitiligo spot like on my shoulder, it, you know, and how big it would be, then I would kind of know how to psychologically assess that that new spot. If I knew that I was gonna, you know, have, you know, vitiligo spot on my foot somewhere, a new spot on my foot, you know, but we don't know where it's gonna show up on our body. We don't know what shape it's gonna take, you know. So that for a lot of people, that's a lot of unwanted, you know, stress. But some people don't care. You know what I mean? I've reached that point in my life where I'm like, okay, well, there's another vitiligo spot here. There's another one. Oh, I got another one right here in my arm. I didn't have this a couple months ago. So, you know, it's it's like, okay. Yeah. But, you know, but that took time. I was not always like that. It took me a good 15, 16 years before I came to that point, you know, of being really comfortable and accepting that. You know what I mean? Awesome. Because I was one of those people that I hid my hand. I did not like to be photographed. Get that camera away from me. And I would have my hands behind my back, or I would have my hands in my pockets, you know. I wore long sleeve shirts all the time, even in the summertime. And I just, it was, but I had to come to that decision. Do I want to live or do I want to hide? What kind of life do I want for myself, in the future? What's going on here? What do I want to do? You know what I mean?
Powerful.
And it was so freeing when I made that decision, and everybody's journey is different. You know what I mean? I can't rush somebody in that process because everybody has their own, their own journey into that. So
yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
We're up against time here. Closing thoughts. I would like to ask one final question. What would you like people to take away from this story, to this show today, hearing your story? Don't get shy on me now.
I would say, okay. I would say definitely, like earlier, don't stop living.
Right.
Do whatever you like to do, travel, love.
Right.
I mean, just do anything that you want to do. Work, go out.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I go out, I really don't notice I have vitiligo. Maybe others do, but I don't notice vitiligo. I don't know about vitiligo. I don't let vitiligo stop me from living. Get out and live. That's my takeaway. That's what I want people's takeaway to be.
Awesome. Anybody else have anything to add?
Well, my closing comment would be like, when I see someone on the street with vitiligo, I'll definitely introduce myself to them. Yeah. So I would like, if people without vitiligo see us and they want to know, step to us, ask us. I met a gentleman the other day. He's a rapper out here in Atlanta, two-tone. He approached me, and I was like,
yeah.
And then he told me who he was, and I met him. So he's a cool dude,
Yes,
And so I just say I like to embrace my fellow Vitilagos. So when I see him on the street, I definitely approach them and say hello, let them know who I am. So I'm in Atlanta. If you see me, say hi to me.
Awesome. Amy, you had something to share?
Similar to Robert, I was going to say, just say hi to people. As Lisa was saying, the stares can be uncomfortable, but when you turn that into a conversation, into a positive interaction, it can mean so much. Like sometimes, you might be feeling uncomfortable about it, and just knowing what that person's feeling, they might be admiring you. Let the person know, it'll start up at least that one good thing in their day. All the stares can't compare to that one good interaction. So, say hi, say something, don't stare. Just remember, everybody's on their own unique path. And I think we're all so beautiful and gorgeous. So I think I just have to live every day reminding myself of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Lisa or Yasif, any final thoughts?
Vitiligo doesn't define us, we do.
Yes.
That's it.
Amen.
Go to sleep.
Yeah. Don't let anything define you, whether it's vitiligo or something else. Anything that anybody looks at you as a negative, flip it. Just flip it into something positive. You know what I mean? I work with special needs people. And a lot of times the people that I work with, they say, I can't do this. And I can't do this. And I say, okay, all right. So let's focus on what you can do. Let's focus on what you're able to do. And then we'll go from there. Okay. All right. So that's how I like to approach my life with anything. It's like, I spent so many days as a kid and as a teenager focusing on what I wasn't able to do. I was always looking at other people, and I felt so bad about my self-image. It was terrible. And now with vitiligo, I've completely made this turnaround and accepted it. And I know for a fact that we're all made in God's image, and God does not make junk. Okay. So we're all made in his image. He loves each and every one of us. He has a plan and purpose for all of us. And if vitiligo is all part of his plan, great. and we all have to be an inspiration to other people out there, you know, because we're all facing something. We're all fighting a battle of some kind, but we could help each other along the way. So that's what I want to do, you know. And I think everybody on this panel is doing that. You've all helped other people today with this, so y'all should be proud of yourself.
Everyone,
and keep
definitely.
doing it. Keep doing what you're doing to inspire and to
thank
be
you,
a
guys.
cheerleader for other people. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for being part of the show. Really appreciate you sharing your stories.
Really appreciate it.
Yes, most definitely. Well, we're coming to an end here. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for to our panel for once again sharing your story. You heard it from our mouths to your ears. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Thank you.